Previously on the SML podcast.
I gotta wrap this up. The show's gotta end. Pickle might be in trouble.
Oh no.
And now, the thrilling continuation of the SML podcast.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Got a wise guy here, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
What is wrong with us?
Everything. What's up, everyone? This is the SML podcast. We're making cat noises, I guess, to celebrate the fact that Pickle's doing better. Yay!
That is fantastic news, actually.
Yeah, the last show kind of ended on a cliffhanger where midway through doing the reviews, Ashley came down with Pickle and was like, there was a problem. And he had a lump like the size of a tennis ball on his neck.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and of course, he was trying to hide it like cats do.
Well, no, he was just laying on the bed.
Just existing.
And Ashley, for some reason, decided to like roll over and snuggle with him before she got up for work. And she felt the lump on his neck. And, you know, she ended up calling off work and we wrapped up the show and we drove like an hour away to the emergency vet clinic and waited an hour in the parking lot and then waited a half hour inside and then found out that he had to have it drained and it's some abscess on his neck, and we had it drained. We gave him antibiotics. We took him to the vet 2 days later and got x-rays done. They don't think it's anything involving his teeth. They think it may be like a bite or a scratch from playing with one of the other cats, probably Butter because he's an asshole. But he seems to be in better spirits and he is mending. So
Well, that's good to hear.
how's everyone else doing?
No.
Well, it's, coming up on the 2-year anniversary of one of our dogs dying, so,
Oh.
pet misery. No, it's been a weird few days.
How so? What's going
because
on in your neck of the woods?
my child has COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, he came down with that like Wednesday night, just like blazing fever, very not in good shape. Well, I won't say very, I guess. He was just miserable. Like, just kept popping up through the night. And then Thursday, he was miserable like all day. That was the day when I was at work. But then the past 4 days, I've been home with him. And his fever broke like Thursday night. And he's felt more or less better since then. Every now and then, he's like, my throat hurts. Or like this morning, it was like very runny nose and just kind of tired. But, I can't do anything with him, much with him, because I can't go places with him still. He's within the quarantine period. So, yeah, tomorrow he goes back to school, but it's just been weird. It feels like I've been home for like 2 weeks somehow with him.
Time has just lost meaning in the pandemic era.
Yes, it has.
Time
Big
has
time.
no
It's
meaning.
like as soon as I stepped back into like, okay, well, I guess I got to stay home and not go anywhere, even though it wasn't me that was sick. I lost time. Time disappeared from me. So
I do appreciate that
work.
on Friday night when we were talking during wrestling, you were lamenting the fact that he wasn't sick long enough.
Yeah, I could have used him to be like a little bit like, not, he was miserable on Thursday. I could have dealt with him like still being just like very like low energy, like one of these days, so that he just wanted to like be still on the couch and watch stuff. But like, no, he was very active.
He was still a child.
Yeah, he was very much a child, and then that's exhausting when you have limited outlets for stimulating that child. I mean, we went for like a bike ride yesterday, I think it was. Like, I think we went for like a walk Saturday, so there was like, we got outside a little bit, but didn't want to go too crazy.
Was this the situation you had the emergency Pokemon game stashed away for?
Yes. That might as well be.
What? Emergency Pokemon game.
Yes. So I bought because Shining Pearl and Brilliant Diamond had been on sale, at various points over the past few months. So like I grabbed a copy of each for $30 and just kind of put them away. Because I'm like, so at some point, I'm going to need to break glass and break out a Pokemon game. Theoretically, we were
emergency.
Yes, theoretically, both games would have been broken out at the same time, so we could play them together. But it's just, this is exactly the situation. It's just like, okay, bud, you have COVID. You can't go anywhere for the next 5 days. Here is Shining Pearl. Go nuts, which he did for like 2 days, and then he went back to playing fucking Sword. Just like what is going? He's been hopping between that and Mario Kart, and I accidentally deleted his one of his Pokemon Sword saves.
Oh,
well, when I say accidentally, I mean he was being a shithead. I had an extra profile. We have 2 Switches. There's one that he uses and one that I use. But the one he uses was the one that was mine before I got an OLED one. And it still has one of my extra profiles on there, the one with my European account that I use for when we get European codes for games sometimes, but mostly don't use. And at some point I was like, yeah, sure, dude, you can start a Pokemon Sword game on that profile. I don't care. But then like he kept starting like other games on it, including, like Pokemon Unite. And I was just like kind of frustrated with him. I'm like, all right, dude, you can't just keep jumping on this profile to do whatever the hell you want. Because, it does have store access and shit on it. So I'm like, okay, I'm deleting this off of there. And then I realized as I hit delete, I'm like, wait, was your Sword game on here? And then it was gone.
Fine accident, but 'twas a fine delete, but sure 'twas no accident, English.
No, 'twas no it was not the intention of the moment, I should say. I was just intending to get him out of Pokemon Unite in that account. But then, like, at the last minute, I was like,
opened up a copy of Pokemon Divide.
But the thing is, I mean, because he played like 100 hours of Pokemon Sword on like his main profile, and then like had me delete that game, like all that progress to start over because he wanted to.
Why?
And I was like, why? Because he wanted a different start, and he just wanted to play through the game again. That's all. I mean, I know it sounds completely foreign to us, but I feel like that's something I would have done at his age. I was more prone to just like replay the same games over and over again. So like he had started another game and he was like most of the way through it, and then I shit canned it. But then he just he just started up a new game, just kept going, doesn't even care, just whatever. He just loves.
Fortunately, I have fun when I play games. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. He just loves playing Pokemon Sword. I was looking at his. I don't have my Switch within reach, but he has played so much Pokemon Sword and so much Mario Kart 8. It's like 350 hours of Mario Kart 8, something like that.
Good Lord.
Jesus Christ.
It's like his favorite game. That's like the game that's the game that got him into games.
I wish I had that kind of like concentration level. Like I can't focus on the game that doesn't allow me to unlock and acquire new things constantly.
I know.
It's like a measurable like fraction of his life so far.
Yeah. I wish. Sometimes I look at like some of my friends on the Switch, and how much time they've put into something like Splatoon, and pretty much only Splatoon, and I'm like, I wish I could be like you and just be satisfied with one game to fill my time. But
are you talking about?
Alas, I have a problem.
I'm talking about Hex.
Well, I'm talking about Hex, and he is not the only one, at least on my friends list. But Hex obviously is one of the most prominent. And that, like, he went from playing 400 hours of Splatoon 2 constantly, just rolled right over into Splatoon 3.
I finally put the game in the system for the first time yesterday.
Yeah.
Carnage, ask how much time I put into Gems of War. Oh, Lord. I don't think I want to know.
I actually just deleted that game.
Gems of War?
I read like I had a feeling it would be decent, but when I read about it, it's like, yeah, they want that money.
No, I don't think I have ever felt the need to spend money on Gems of War.
It's basically like a pseudo sequel or spiritual successor to Puzzle Quest, right?
Yeah.
And Puzzle Quest is amazing.
It's very, very, very friendly to financial concerns.
Cheapness?
Yeah.
Hey, just because you don't feel compelled to spend money on it doesn't mean that those dirty hooks aren't in there to grab into people with more addictive personality. It's the same. I was actually just reading about this today. It's just like, yeah, casinos act like, if you have a problem, do this, this, and this, but they're still targeted at people who have a problem,
Oh, 100%. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they're doing.
It's a hand-wavy thing.
What time is it? Don't worry about it. Have a beer.
It can be predatory without preying on you.
Times it's slots time.
Lessons for games, lessons for life.
Don't go to the casino.
I think Gems is pretty good, though.
Sure.
I was taught a valuable lesson by Dragon Quest as to why I don't gamble.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well,
Monster Arena unexpectedly, you have to fend for yourself.
No, I mean, Dragon Quest is like straight up. They've got casinos in them with like all kinds of gambly games, and I always get stuck in one for like days.
Yep.
You're trying to unlock the casino only items, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's me in Persona and Dragon Quest.
I literally, in Dragon Quest XI, I hit the jackpot enough times that I bought everything that I could possibly need from the casino store, and then I just kept going.
There's nothing left to buy. More money.
This is what being rich is like.
The thing about Dragon Quest games, though, is there's always a machine that's kind of broken in their casinos, so you just have to figure out what it is. Yeah, there's always
really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's always machines that pay out more than other machines.
Huh.
So you got to try to figure that out, and even then, it's still a freaking grind. It's just slightly better odds,
Oh, it's fun though.
Yes. Yeah, I did spend a lot of time pulling that lever and spinning those wheels in Dragon Quest XI.
I have the same track for it too, maybe with a slight remix, but it's always the same casino tune.
Oh, those casino tunes are great though. I think I want to say my favorite casino tune is Lufia 2, but I don't know. It's probably one of the Dragon Quests. I have not thought about it until literally this moment, so I'll have to
get a chance. Listen to the Gambling House theme from Alundra. Okay. That one is a bop.
I don't know Alundra, so yeah, I'll do that.
You don't know Alundra?
No, I missed out on it. Yeah, there's a lot of PlayStation 2 era stuff that I had to miss because there was just so much at the time.
Nah, I still in the peg days of playing Alundra.
That was my heyday when I had all the time without the bills and the money. So it was like, just buy every game as it came out and just sit on them like a freaking dragon hoarding his eggs.
Yeah, I tried a little bit with that, but yeah, it was my collecting era came a little later because I didn't start working until 2000, so PlayStation was kind of on its way out. But I did buy Chrono Cross and Final Fantasy IX, I think on the same purchase, and I was like, that was my first time feeling like, oh yeah, hey, I can do things in the world.
I bought 2 video games at once. Look at me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got your own meat and potatoes, though. I mean, you got Cubivore, so.
Oh, yeah. No, that's my retirement. Cubivore.
I missed out on Cubivore. That was back when I had to cut back on spending because I had a freaking $10,000 credit card bill.
I think I've told the story of Cubivore a couple times on this here podcast, so maybe I shouldn't. But long story short, it was the first time that I got to witness GameStop's unscrupulous policies firsthand, because the game came out for $30 because it was a cheap game. It was an indie game that Atlas published, and it sold out because everybody loved it. And it sold out, and the thing that Atlas did back then was that when a game sold out, they didn't notice or they didn't care. But there was actually a group.
Oh, thank God it sold.
Yeah, exactly. It sold next. Let's get out Tulip now and see if that no, I'm just kidding. I think that was Natsume. But anyways, but
Tulip's worth a lot too.
Yeah, and Rule of Rose is another one. I think that was Atlas too.
Still kicking myself for missing that. I had the chance. I was
I
could save some money. It's another survival horror game.
So by the time that Cubivore came out, then there was actually an online group, like kind of a group of people that were like, what we're going to do is we are going to make a concentrated like letter writing campaign, like a really actually not like a what do you call it? The petition online. like we're actually going to like really do a real thing where we are going to like beseech Atlas to be like, hey, could y'all do another print run of this? We we promise that it's going to sell. And so they did. And by this time, this is a couple months now, Cubivore had gone rare. And so like the situation came up that when GameStop got this new batch of games that were printed specifically for them, GameStop got them and opened them and charged the open box price for them because it was like $39.99, which...
Yeah, they did that with Metroid Prime and the trilogy, and they did that with Xenoblade Chronicles.
They did that with a few things.
Here's the thing,
GameStop are bitches, basically.
Well, and it was worse with those games because GameStop had the exclusive publishing for those, the exclusive distribution for those. It was, Xenoblade and Metroid Prime Trilogy were GameStop exclusives, so they literally got to control the stock and the price. But that was a few years later. This was 2003 or so, like 6 years before all that. So it's like, they just were opening them and charging more money. And I remembered going to GameStop and buying a quote-unquote open, Cubivore. Didn't have a speck of dust on it anywhere. It was like still like... It didn't even have fingerprints on it yet. Mm-hmm. Like they would have like just opened it that day, and I bought it for used, quote unquote, for $39.99. And I remember grousing so hard about that because I was like, this is so terrible. Not for what it is right now, because $10 is whatever, but it's like for what this says about the future. And
now they're going out of business, so come up and.
Well, I mean, it's now been 20 years since then, so.
Well, it's like, didn't they do like Gravity Rush 2 or Gravity Rush Remastered, and they were charging like $70 for it? I want to say. I feel like that's a recent example of them pulling this shit.
Yeah, I think they just still do it. But I don't know.
It works.
Yeah. So like, and that second batch, of course, also sold out at the $40 or whatever. And, that's just where it stays to this day because, Atlas never was like, well, let's do it a third time now.
No.
Mm-hmm. They just did it the one more time, and then everybody, a few people got their copies, and now it's an $800 game.
Yay.
Yay.
Great game, but yeah.
What the hell are you doing, Pernell?
Speaking of video games.
I'm crying because I want Cubivore.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah, speaking of games, should we get to games? We have a couple of games to talk about tonight.
Is one of them Cubivore?
No.
I mean, I can review Cubivore, but...
All right, first game to talk about tonight is Cubivore.
But I was going to say, Atlas needs to give me a copy of it.
Hey, Atlas, if you're listening,
send us some copies of Cubivore, Atlas, please. We'll give you a good review. You can get those copies moving.
While we're at it, hey, way forward, could we get Shantae over here?
Shantae.
First game to talk about tonight. First game to talk about tonight is Kena Bridge of Spirits, developed and published by Ember Lab, released September 27th on Steam for $39.99. A story-driven action-adventure combining exploration with fast-paced combat. Untangle the past as Kena, a young spirit guide in search of the sacred mountain shrine, help free the spirits trapped in a forgotten village with the help of her adorable yet powerful spirit companions. The help of the rot, not the rat.
Yeah, I was about to say, who's the rat?
Clearly my eyes are going and I need to get glasses. So Tim, tell us
Monday.
What
usually record on Tuesday. That's
what is
why.
Kuna Barge of Sprats?
Barge of Sprats. Well, you Kuna, you get on your barge and then you get your sprats and you take them over the lake. Da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. So yeah, this is a game. I don't know. Is it pronounced Kena? Did they give like a pronunciation?
I only remember
I don't know.
I'm not sure how Oshi would pronounce it. Kena.
I would say Kenna, but I don't know. I Kena could be correct as well. I was sitting here trying to think like shit. The character, there's voice acting. I'm sure they said her name out loud, and I'm just like, I don't remember that. Whatever.
It was just
Anyways.
all like Charlie Brown voice acting, where it's like, wah, 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 wah,
no, they're
wah.
really talking. There's good voice acting in the game, and well animated cutscenes and shit. They put effort into it. I just don't remember that one particular detail. Yeah, so this is a game that came out like last year, but now it's coming out on Steam because it was an Epic Store exclusive. I don't know if there's anything else that wasn't on that it's coming out on now. I don't really know what. I know it's a game I've had my eye on.
It's a PlayStation exclusive on consoles.
Okay,
still.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, still,
yeah.
Oof. You love that, Joe.
Yay!
Fingers
crossed it jumps on Switch and Xbox soon. It'd be nice.
Something. Yeah, I'm not saying it's like a graphical powerhouse. It just makes me wonder how it would run on Switch. Not optimally, I'm sure. Anyways, yeah. The Bridge of Spirits. So yeah, we got a pretty charming, pretty fun to play little action adventure deal here. So yeah, you're this girl, Kenna, whatever, who is a manner of spirit guide in this forest where you are like healing rot. You are healing rot and corruption across the forest, but you will find little rot spirits, which, sound disgusting and awful because they're rot, but they're these like cute little fuzzy black creatures with big doe eyes that look like something that Pixar would have dreamed up and stuck into a movie and then turned into plushies everywhere. Maybe like Pixar's version of like the dust mites from that Ghibli movie. Anyways, Spirited Away, that one. So you will go through the forest. You'll pick up some little rot buddies, and they'll like follow you around, kind of like a little parade, like Pikmin. Or, in areas where they can't traverse, they'll just kind of disappear, and then they'll suddenly like pop in ahead of you. Or if you like walk into a house, they'll just like poof in there, and they'll be like all over the cutlery and in the kitchen and furniture and all that stuff. So they follow you around. They're a very active part of the game, and you're collecting more and more of them, and they will play into the game, with traversal and puzzle solving, and in the combat. You can use them just to like move things or command them to move things around, like, blocks so that you can get up higher, or, pick up statues to get little bonus currency and stuff like that. In combat, first you need to build up their resolve. So you, at least at first, you'll fight enemies like these kind of mangled tree spirit things, and you have to do a little bit of fighting first to build up their courage so that they have the gumption to step into the fight with you. And you can sick them on enemies to temporarily kind of immobilize them. You can have them go, like sometimes some combat arenas will have like little flowers or other interaction points. You can cast them on a flower and that will restore your health. All of like the enemy spawns are tied to like these corrupt like flower blooms. So you need to sick your little rot buddies on one of those, and then there is a button just to kind of like purify. It also acts as your guard button in battle. But yeah, you cast the button and then it pops the little thing, and then enemies stop spawning. So they play into, the story, the combat, just the visuals, just kind of the overall tone of exploring, and it's very cute and fun. And as you're exploring the world, there is lots of secrets and stuff to find off the beaten paths as you look around. Some of it's just, like, okay, yeah, like I said, here's some currency. Like there's a currency for leveling up your character. There's a currency for buying stuff. You'll find health upgrades. You will find more little rot guys. The more rots you find, that levels up unto itself, which will unlock more stuff in your skill tree, and just also give you more guys following you around. I think you can also unlock some of the hats as you're exploring. You can. It's a wonderful part of the game is you can customize what hats your rot crew will be wearing. So it'll be like, like a little pot on one's head, or a mushroom on another, or just grass sprouting from another, wearing a mask. And you'll see that like as they pop up, like they're all wearing different hats that you put on them. And so you can pick, how many of each hat like is out there for them to be wearing, and which ones. So yeah, it is a nice looking game. Playing it on my PC, it looked okay. My graphics card is definitely a bit behind the times, but it ran fine. It actually ran better on my newly acquired Steam Deck.
When'd you get it?
Last Wednesday it came in. So like right before I was home for 4 days with the child. Very timely. And somehow I actually, so that was very cool. This was basically like the first game I spent an extended amount of time playing on it, and that was cool.
It is Steam Deck compatible, verified, so
yeah, absolutely, yeah, right off the bat. Yep,
amazing.
Yeah. And by the way, many things that aren't Steam Deck verified still work totally fine. I'm not going to get into all that right now, but no, it booted up, ran well. I'm, lower resolution, lower frame rate than if I had been running it on, say, my PlayStation 5. But, I am playing it portably on this beautiful screen, and everything felt good and ran well. There was no problems with that. The game, like the art of the game still carries it. It still just looks nice, even if it's not running at its maximum frame rate. It has like a wonderful sound design to it, with just like the voice acting, like I mentioned, and like the music. And it's just kind of just like a joy to play. It is definitely not the most challenging game I have put my hands on, or even close to it. I was just playing it on normal difficulty. There's easier difficulties than that. I have died a couple times, but it's pretty simple and straightforward, but it's still fun, with the abilities that they give you in the combat. It's just been a wonderful time, and it moves nicely between exploring and like platforming and combat, and story stuff, and is well balanced and has a good number of secrets in it, and just seems like a really solid game all around.
Cool. Well, it is $39.99. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think that's worth buying on there, for sure. Yeah, if you avoid the Epic Store on your computer for whatever reason, or if you have a Steam Deck and you're looking for a game to play on it, like, go for it. You'll only get about an hour and a half out of the battery life on it.
Ouch.
Battery life.
And we'll get. Hey, that's the Steam Deck, man.
Oh man.
I wish it got of our day.
Well, I should say, like, if a game is pushing, the hardware, that's what you can expect out of the battery life. I have not really put it through its full paces yet. So, we'll see if I'm running things that are less intensive, but yeah, it'll run on there and look nice and be fun to play.
Cool. All right, next up is Moonscars, developed by Black Mermaid, published by Humble Games, released September 27th on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC for $19.99. Push the limits of your combat skills and master new abilities to progress through an unforgiving, non-linear 2D world. Face off against the relentless darkness that seeks to destroy you. In Moonscars, every death is a lesson learned, and as you overcome each challenge, new truths will be revealed. Tim, what is going on in Moonscars?
Well, this is the fucking opposite of Kena and the Bridge of Spirits in terms of tone and difficulty and mood. Like, you could not move the dial further in the other direction. This is a
covering
game
a broad
that,
spectrum this week.
Yeah, it's some whiplash going from one to the other. Let me tell you what. Moonscars, as opposed to being like this colorful, beautiful, like, almost Pixar-inspired world, this game has black and white and red as its chosen color palette. There's
some brown
dark
in there and gray
and moody. There is, yes.
There's some red.
Gray, yes, I said red. 1, 2. Gray is a combination of white and black. There's also some green in there, fuckers, occasionally. But to be clear, like, this is a game that is near monochromatic. Like, it uses its color sparingly. But for particular things, the red is dusted upon spikes that will pop out and kill you. It pops for like when enemies are about to attack, so you can parry them. It's used for blood, of course, and particular characters might be shaded in a certain way. I saw one patch of green in one particular area, and I was like, holy shit, look at that color. Never seen that before. But most of what you are looking at is drawn in black and white and the shades in between. And it's a very, striking visual style. It looks cool. Sometimes, when you get into the menus, I'm kind of I wish this maybe was a little bit clearer to look at. When you're just using those colors, there does end up being a lack of distinction between certain things just kind of in the UI and the game in general. But it's a choice that I think mostly works and looks good and adds to the mood of the game, which, has this very dark, moody mood to it. It's drawing. Here's a game that's drawing a lot of inspiration from the Souls games, both in terms of that tone and its mechanics. So,
a slower paced combat
fall into
style
the
abyss.
slower paced combat. You die, you drop your shit where you die, and you go back to the last checkpoint. Just kind of that feeling of the difficulty and the oppressive
And then you never
world
see your stuff again because you die on the way back.
It only happened to me once. But just the idea of, your attacks being very, very deliberate in some cases. Some of the mechanics being obfuscated, the way the NPCs are just very vague and they're conveying the story, and the way the lore is conveyed. It grabs that feeling, even if it does have some of its own ideas and stuff to stand on. I think it is a non-linear world mostly. You do have your point A and your point B that you're trying to get to, but there is just a lot of stuff on the side to check out and explore, and be rewarded by with various items and things. And I found that stood out as a very enjoyable part of the game for me, is just exploring that world. And finding those secrets and just going over this path over here and okay, what's over this path over here, and seeing how the shortcuts opened up new ways to traverse. That all felt very good and was very cool. There is a very good enemy variety in this game. Your combat skills, you have, I mentioned there is a parry, of course, that also seems like it has to be a staple of these games. I think it feels pretty good in this one in terms of the timing of it. When I was playing Thymesia last month or the month before, I had no handle on that parry whatsoever. This one, I think because of, it's a nice, there's a red shine on an enemy before they're going to swing a parryable attack. Which gives you, it's good. You can pick up on that timing pretty well with most enemies. So I was using the parry pretty liberally. You get some magic spells, which has some ups and downs to it, but those map to your triggers, and you can equip 2 at a time, which give you some options for projectiles or summoning helper things, or giving yourself buffs. You can heal, you get a meter that is your magic it's your magic, and you can use that to cast magic spells, or you can hold down the left bumper and it will heal damage off your character, and that will refill as you're engaging in combat. You also get a special weapon, which can change, which will map to why you can only hold one of them at a time. I'll get to more of that. But, it gives you another weapon, and usually it applies some sort of adverse effect to your enemies, depending on which one you select. Experience in character building in this game is kind of interesting, because you will pick up I think it's, oh god, what is it called in this one? The souls, I think they're bone dust is what it is. You'll pick
bone powder.
Bone powder. Yeah, you can spend, the checkpoints are mirrors, which you have to spend them at a mirror. which there is a large tree of different magical abilities that you can spend your currency to level up. And like each tier down, kind of you start at the top, and like each level down costs more and more. But also when you're just like out in the world fighting enemies, you will gain experience, which will give you a level where you can pick a buff. And whenever you hit like a level, those buffs are randomized. It could be something like it increases your healing efficiency. It just straight up heals you straight to full right at that moment. Gives you a better crit rate, stuff like that. But those reset after you die or hit a checkpoint. So they're not permanent. Like the spell things you do buy, those are permanent. But these other buffs are like per life or per run, I guess, even though it's not a run-based game, but this run away from the checkpoint. And I think that's interesting, and that adds some variety. Unfortunately, there's only so many different buffs you can get. So there isn't like a huge variety to it. And it can be kind of frustrating when you are going at a boss and you don't have those buffs unless you decide like, oh, hey, I'm going to go and, fight a bunch of things to level up enough to get myself like a healing buff before I go into this boss. It's a cool idea though. Inside you can go through the mirrors to like this, workshop area where NPCs like to hang out, and some of them have shops and some of them grant you lore. And there's some gargoyles there that will talk to you. Like all the like thematic stuff around this game is around like clay. Like your character goes into like this chair and like the thing you're actually controlling is like a homunculus of it or something like that. And you're going after some dude called the Sculptor, and like all the babies in the realm were like sacrificed to him or something like that. I have not parsed all this out yet. I am there's a lot of it going on. It does seem interesting. But sometimes like just the things they're talking about with glands and sacrifices, I'm just like, I don't know what's going on here. You guys are just kind of throwing out words, glands and ichor, and okay, guys. Can only keep up with it so much. But that's what's going on with it. And there's ups and there's downs to it. Mostly I found exploring the world and just kind of fighting the mob enemies to be good. I like the look of it. Traversing is generally pretty good. Sometimes there's some bullshit. You fall down into some spikes and you take some damage, and that's annoying. But I feel like most of the mechanics are pretty well balanced. But there's some things that have definitely stuck in my craw on this game.
Let's hear them.
One of the things. Let's hear them. So whenever you die at a certain, and this seems to crop up at a certain point in the game, the like world state changes to this thing called moon hunger, I think it is, or moon blight. I think it's moon hunger. And like there's a moon icon in the upper left, and it'll turn from white to red. And while this is active, enemies are harder, though you get more bone dust from them. And this happens every single fucking time you die. And the way to fix it is by using a gland, yes, a gland, at a mirror, and that will wipe it. But, the glands, they don't just like drop from enemies. You got to find them in the world. And you also need those glands to use as a currency for other things in the game. And it just kind of feels bad, like when you're hitting a boss and you're dying a lot, or you're just in a tough part of the game and you're dying a lot. And it's just like, well, this is harder than it fucking needs to be because I'm trying to conserve my glands. That's a weird sentence. But, I'm just getting wrecked, but I want to use it to make the game a little bit easier. But, at a certain point, it's just like, okay, well, I got to use it to just make this spot like a little bit easier for myself. But, then you're blowing through a currency that you could use for buying, accessories. There's accessories you can equip on your character. You can equip 3 of them. Buying those for your character to make more permanent advancement. It's just something that feels bad, and it's something that I don't like happening literally every time I die. It would be nicer if it was more of like, okay, every now and then this thing will happen. But just having it constantly just made it be like, okay, well, I guess the game is just going to be harder for me all the time. And it's rough because like sometimes enemies will hit you like so fucking hard, like boom, wow, like half my health is gone from one hit. You can die super fast. and that applies to hazards as well, not just enemies. And it's just a rough thing. I think it's a questionable decision to have it like just activated every single time. The game is tough overall, but specifically the first like major boss, in my opinion, is bullshit. I got past him, but people should be aware that this game is freaking tough. When I beat that first boss, like the little diamond achievement unlocked and like only 4% of players had been past him. And I was just like, woof, that's rough for a boss that's like a couple hours into the game is the first major one. He heals himself. It's some real horse shit.
Oh, that's mean.
It is really mean for an early boss in the game. The second boss had a 2% achievement unlock on it. And I'm just like, man, whoa. That's woof. Again, maybe a couple hours further than that. And I did have an easier time beating that boss because it wasn't fucking healing itself. But still, just this game is not for the faint of heart. Like, this is a difficult game, and you got to be ready for that. And it kind of sucks because you have limited options for advancement. Like I said, like, yeah, there's that whole tree of spells to unlock, but you still only have 2 slots for spells. You still only have 2 buttons for spells. So it's like, if you buy a new one and it's not good, congrats on your wasted money. And so it's just the thing, when you only have that many slots, I feel much easier to just, I'm going to stick with what works rather than switching between them. Like, there's multiple different spells that are variations on like some kind of a projectile or fireball. And she's like, I'm just going to find the one that, works the best or is the cheapest or whatever. And like, why would I invest in the other ones? The special weapons that I mentioned earlier all have like a fucker of a startup time in them. Like I said, the combat is deliberate, but those weapons in particular, like, they have these big, beautiful animations to them, but they just take so long to get going, and the enemies are not hanging around waiting for you to like pull out this big, hefty hammer and drop it down on them and then do the second swing of it. So I pretty much stuck to just using this harpoon weapon, which goes out as a projectile, because then it's like, okay, I know when I can be far enough away from an enemy to throw it. The other weapons just came out so slow, like trying to integrate them into combat was just frustrating. And like, there's this whole mechanic where like the first time you find a mirror and like establish it as a checkpoint, like you go into it and then it leaves like a doppelganger of yourself on the other side, and you have to fight them again to get your special weapon back. And then you get the chance of like choosing a different special weapon, or you can spend currency at a mirror to do that. But it's just, for me, just every time it's just like, harpoon. And they discourage you from,
right?
They discourage you from doing that because they put different effects on the other options than the one you just had. But I'm just like, no, I need the one that will actually be functional in combat. But because of that, it's not like you can grind out like stats, like permanent stat buffs in this game. Like, you can grind out a bit for purchasing like some items, but there's not like a ton of those. Like I said, you can do a grind for that run to get yourself a little more powerful, but that doesn't stick around. That goes away, and that can be super tedious when you're just trying to beat a boss. So like, you are forced basically to get good to get past the bosses. And the biggest fucking problem I have with this game is it crashes. I had it crash like 3 times, just like out of nowhere, which, I still, on average, I guess, in the amount of time I played with it, is still once every at least an hour between crashes. But it's frustrating.
Yeah,
it's still frustrating. And it wasn't like, it was just out of nowhere. I would just kind of be out exploring the world, fighting enemies, and it would just like freeze and then crash to menu. And I'm like, well, that sucks, because then I have to, the game doesn't save like on a tick like a Dark Souls game does. Like, it only saves when you hit those checkpoints. So it's like, well, I have to now walk all the way back to where I was. And like, yeah, that third crash was like, I just kind of threw up my hands and I'm like, okay, I'm fucking done playing this game. I'm done reviewing it, because this is coloring my review too much. As happy as I am with certain aspects of the game, and a lot of it, the thing with the difficulty and the balance and the character advancement, it's like, okay, those are manageable things that make it less recommendable. But man, the crashes, you got to fix that shit. You got to fix that. That is really hurting my enjoyment of the game.
Yeah. Well, as it stands, it is $20 If they could get the crashes in check, what do you think?
Well, in current state, I still think it's worth a try. I mean, it is on Game Pass, so have at. And I think it's somewhere like right on the border of trying and actually playing. Other than that, because like I said, it is hard. I think the amount of people it's going to appeal to is much more narrow than some other games that borrow these kind of mechanics and ideas. I do think it has some really cool shit going on. But yeah, it's a fucker of a game. It is quite difficult, but it is, the graphics are really well made, well animated. The music adds great tone to the game. The stuff they're going on, the world is crazy and interesting. So there's a lot of good to see there. Did you say it's only $20?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably worth buying, but it's like, yeah, just be aware of this crash situation. And I hope, maybe wait for a couple patches before you drop the money on there. I mean, it's not going to wipe your save out, but it's going to waste your time and piss you off. And
yeah,
I hate those things.
All right. Well, that is it for you, Tim.
Yeah.
I guess we will let you get going.
Yeah. I gotta actually go to work tomorrow and reacclimate myself with the world.
Gross.
Yeah, I didn't look at my email at all today, so I'm just gonna see that in the morning and deal with it then, and that's fine. Turn my alarm back on and ugh, gross.
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, do you have any final words?
My clue for Brooke this week, though she's not here, I was going to say that I got a Steam Deck because I don't get to play my PC games because I spend so much of my workday often sitting in front of a computer, and I'll get home and I won't want to do it when I get home. But she's not here to hear it. But maybe she'll listen to the show and maybe she'll get the clue. I should have just read it to her next week because I don't want her to figure it out when she's not on the show. And then just come in. It's better if she has the aha moment when she's here. Maybe don't listen to that, Brooke. And if you're listening to the podcast backwards for some reason, don't listen to what I just said.
She was in chat earlier. I don't know if she still is or not. She may have left by now.
Yeah,
Lord knows I would have. Yeah,
welcome to another episode of BNL Podcast.
All right, next up, we've got some sports ball shenanigans. George, take it away.
And now for Sport Ball Shenanigans with
Chris Taylor
on the SML podcast. We tried to get Bob Costas, and he was all like, fuck no.
That is right. Sports ball shenanigans time. Next game to talk about is PBA Bowling 2023, developed and published by FarSight Studios, released September 7th, Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC for $29.99. The ultimate bowling game is back with PBA Pro Bowling 2023. Become a PBA legend with a completely redesigned single-player career mode, or compete in online matches and tournaments against your friends and rivals as yourself or as any of today's top PBA bowlers. Chris, tell us about your time with PBA Bowling 2023.
Will do. First off, I actually only just now thought to look, but I don't think I guess there wasn't a PBA Bowling 2022. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but the problem is it's like naming your game Super Bowl 30 or something like that. It's like, yeah, you'll find the game if you look hard enough, but if you Google it, you're not going to see a game for a long time.
Now I want to see what there's a Pro Bowling 2021. I'm looking on Xbox. There may not have been a 2022, but there was a 2021 and a Pro Bowling. So
okay, well, in that case, since they skipped a year, I'm just going to feel confident talking about this game as if there weren't other games in the series, because I did not research them. So, we're just going to talk about this game in isolation, as things should be.
Fresh out
in
the
these
gate.
COVID times. Yeah, in these COVID times, we should have more things in isolation. So, PBA Bowling.
FarSight just make more pinball games.
I actually didn't know. I didn't know they were into they did pinball games.
Yeah, FarSight did a pinball arcade series.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, anyways, so yeah, PBA Bowling 23, just 23. I think it's just called 23.
Yep, 2023.
Yeah. Oh, it is? What? Okay, well.
This review's going off to a great start.
This is going well. I swear to God, I played this game. Okay. So, PBA Bowling, whatever it is it is a video game that features that most loved of mini games, and that is bowling. We loved it in Wii Bowling. We loved it in Super Monkey Ball. And now they've turned this Super Monkey Ball minigame into a real actual sport that you get to play in real life, too. That's kind of great.
Based on Super Monkey Ball. That is the accurate history of the PBA.
Wait, what?
Exactly. What?
I thought you were joking.
No, I am joking.
We are very much joking,
also,
Pernell.
This review has gone off the rails, so we're just making up alternate history now.
I mean, it can't go off the rails too bad because we have bumpers up. It's bumper bowling, so.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna hit some goddamn pins by the end of this.
We are gonna hop those bumpers and go and like hit the pins in the next lane, which I've seen happen in person. I've never bumper bowled, by the way, folks. I actually can bowl. It's possibly the only sports ball thing I can actually do. Not well, certainly not well enough to compete, and that's going to come back later in the review. But I do know how to like get the ball to the pins and and knock some of them down.
Nice.
Perchance all of them. And that is the point of bowling, by the way, is that you roll a ball across a floor. And called a bowling alley. No, I actually don't know what the real playing, like the real, like I don't know what the thing's called. Lane, thank you. I'm very qualified for this review. And try to knock over what I found out. They call in England bowling pins are called skittles. Like really? That's where the word comes from. Yeah, skittles. But they use it for a different game that's like played on the lawn.
Frame.
Huh.
Yeah. So taste the iFrame. Nice. Anyways, I just that's a bit of trivia I found out. But yeah. So this video game takes some interesting approaches to the idea of bowling. For one, of course, they tried to provide the most realistic game possible while not making it actually all that realistic, because otherwise nobody would play it because everybody sucks at bowling, except for people who really bowl. Having said, they offer you two different modes of playing. One of them is arcade mode and one of them is simulation mode. Now, the main real difference there is the simulation mode acts like real life as much as it can. So there's this thing, and if you've ever been bowling around strangers, somebody, and you're like, back when you were younger, some older dude is always going to come up to you and talk about this with you, but it's called the hook. It's where, you roll the ball, but you don't roll it straight towards the pins. It kind of goes to the outside, but due to the way that you have moved your wrist, because it's all on the wrist apparently, the ball will then spin back in towards the pins, and that will knock them over more efficiently and get you more strikes. So the hook in this game, in simulation mode, is done by the way you set up the shot, which is very convenient on a controller. You just move your character, your bowler, back and forth with the stick, and then you hold down a shoulder button to basically set up a turn, like a curve. And then depending on the ball, then because the stats are actually in the ball, and that we're going to come to that pretty soon, then the ball will do its spinny thing, and of course, either knock over all the pins or knock over all but that one goddamn pin. And then you got to pick up the spare, as they say, which is they make you lift a car tire and in punishment. Anyways, so the arcade mode, which is more fun, will basically allow you to move the ball and change the curve even after the ball has touched the lane. So it kind of gives you that, that thing like the best baseball games have, where you can like change the ball flight path, like to go to a curveball if you think the person's going to swing at it at the last second. There's games I have where I've trolled the computer so hard with that. And that's kind of how this one works. If you set it to arcade mode, you are nigh guaranteed, once you kind of get used to it, to start getting those strikes and getting those good scores. And of course, good scores are the main point of the game. You got to try and get as many strikes as possible. And the more of those you get, the higher your score gets, until you basically just get told your score. Because there's not really, like, there is competition in the game, but in the single player, it really just is like, you know, here's you, and you just keep going. Because, like, you know, which is unrealistic, because every time I've gone bowling, I've had to wait for other people to go. So yeah, this game, so it's got those two modes, and I spent all my time in arcade mode, really, because it was just very fun. So career mode and you have quick play, of course, where you just play a game. And this is where things start to get weird. Okay, so the game features the two things that you can most change about a bowling about a bowling game besides the actual game, and that is the location of the game, which they do offer up 7 locations, I believe. And that's really funny when you consider that all the locations are going to be you in front of a wooden lane, you know, rolling a ball towards some pins. It's like the locations aren't exactly picturesque, but they are there. The other thing is that you can choose the oil pattern for the lane, which I guess is important. And it must be, because there's 12 options.
Yeah.
There's 12 different oil patterns. Okay, so compare that to the actual bowling selection, like bowler selection, like the people you get to pick to actually do this thing. You have a good stable of actual PBA pros. I had to check some of them because some of them did seem pretty fake. Got your, oh my God, I'm trying to.
I know Pete Weber's in the game, and he's basically a meme come to life sometimes. So. Oh
man, I mean, there's Jacob Buttturf. I love that guy. There's also man, it's really, I gotta get my controller. I'm trying to scroll through them right now, but with the mouse it doesn't quite work. There's one woman, Liz Johnson. She is the only person there, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We also have Kyle Troop, who is a real life person who looks like somebody goofing around with the character creator. I mean, he's a white guy with an afro that sometimes puts him in cornrows, so I'm within my rights to make fun of him. I'm also much older than him. And then you have my favorite, Tom Smallwood. I love him because he's one of the very few people in here who actually looks like a bowler, like a doughy guy, like, you know, like that's the kind of person that, like, basically, okay, so there isn't a huge selection of like real doughy athletes in this, which, you know, that's the thing about bowling, is that you can be any shape and still be an expert bowler. And I noticed that, like, the worse looking my people are, the better I play personally. And that just might be my own bias. Oh, somebody in chat knows these guys. Well, I'm going to stop talking about them. And yeah, as soon as I picked one of them, I not only got a strike, I got 4 strikes in a row, which is called a ham bone.
Yep.
Because bowling is a sport where the word ham bone exists. and it's better than a turkey.
Yep.
Like,
Turkey's 3.
Yep. And they're named after meat. That, like, bowling jokes write themselves. Okay, so I mentioned that there's 12 different kinds of floor oil in this game, and, you know, 12 different patterns to select from. There are only 4 characters who are not representatives of, like, actual pro bowling, and they're all men, and their names are Character 1, Character 2, Character 3, and Character 4. I don't think you can change their names. I haven't been able to. So those are the only 4 people you get to pick when it comes to, like, playing, like, basically outside of, like, you know, just yourself, essentially. So, like, I don't know what happened there. Like, why are there so few, you know, characters like that? They're all young guys, too, like, kind of, anyway. I mean, compared to Tom Smallwood. Anyways, So, like, that's not a big deal. You do see the bowlers in cutscenes as you bowl, and we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, as far as the modes go, you got your quick play, you got your career mode, which career mode, interestingly, occurs on like a yearly basis. So what that is that like you start off with like the PB Players Championship South Region, right? Like that's the first option in year 1. It's a tournament. If you choose it, then you can try and qualify for it, which you have to get a good enough score to get in a certain rank in order to continue going. If you fail to do this, it just grays out and you don't get to try again. Like you just move on to the next tournament because you didn't qualify for this tournament. You have to go through all of the tournaments or attempt to in order for the year to pass by, and then you can select them again. So, and then of course the year goes up. It's year 2. I don't know how many years there are total, but I will tell you I have not qualified for one of these things yet. And I got pretty good at this game. Like one of my games I got like 6 strikes, right? But I did not. I got number 9 and I needed to be 8 or better to qualify. So yeah, so the competition is stiff in good old career mode. But you know, that's the mode where you get your trophies and, you know, cool things like that. Yeah. There's also, of course, local multiplayer online tournaments, which are currently going. And there's also online multiplayer where you can set up a room or join one. And again, they're pretty active right now. So you can, if you buy this game today, you can be hopping back into those. So yeah, the other thing is the pro shop. So the stats for bowling in this game are not in the characters. I know, you know, so if you're particularly attached to character 3 as opposed to character 1, you can go ahead and use him without any, without any kind of hits to your stats. The balls themselves have the stats. It's speed, hook, and there's another one. Hang on. Control. Speed, hook, and control. And they're on a grid of like 1 to 10, and you have to gain levels in the game by bowling. Like that's how you gain levels. And then as you gain more levels, you unlock more tiers. There are 6 tiers of bowling balls in this game, and each tier has a potential 27 balls to unlock. So there's 162 balls that you can unlock in this game.
Nice. And
own all of if you play this game enough, which you will play this game enough because I just keep playing it. I love this game so much. The only things is that when you're actually playing, of course, there's no background music when you're playing, which I'm like, okay, fine. You know, I can listen to Spotify while I do this. There is crowd noise that can be toggled on and off. I toggled it off. There are announcers, real bowling announcers, I believe, who can be toggled on and off. I turned them off immediately because they are annoying. They hate you if you do anything but a strike. And when I was starting this out, they were just like, oh, that was a terrible display. Oh, that I don't know what happened there. Well, it just wasn't concentrating. And just like all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, you're going off. And so I was just like listening to other stuff while bowling, and I suddenly got better.
Nice.
So, yeah, you could also listen to the SML podcast. Good point, Rootbeard.
Yes, you can. So, you can listen to the SML podcast, and you can also potentially win a copy because we should be doing a giveaway in the coming weeks.
Oh boy,
for awesome. Steam keys for the game. So keep an eye on the Twitters.
Yeah, and that's basically it. Like I said, the other thing is that, you know, of course, your characters have skippable like cutscenes whenever they do anything, and I'll tell you, some of these guys look pretty goofy when they're doing that. But I appreciate the game at least trying to approach realism in terms of that, you know, accurate models for the characters and stuff. Oh, and I don't know, do I even need to mention the controls? Oh yeah, I mentioned like aiming the ball. You actually bowl by moving the stick back and then forward. Like, so you actually do kind of have a little bit of a physicality thing there. But I couldn't get it to do it any faster if I held it back more or like did whatever. I just kept rocking it like just straight up back and forth. And I think the actual speed is again going to be contained in the ball itself. So I'll be able to speak more on that once I hit that tier 2. I'm at level 10 right now, baby. Need to be level 15.
Oh, geez. Well, the game is sitting at $29.99, which is, I think, how many minutes you've spent describing it.
Yeah.
I could tell you like this one because you went on about it. So $30. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it is good, and I think you should buy it. I mean, bowling games in a post-Wii society are pretty rampant, but, you know, this one at least gets you, like, incentive to keep going back in there and playing, you know, gaining levels, gaining tickets, which, by the way, tickets are what you use to purchase your way into doing an online tournament. It's cheap, but it's still weird. Like, you can't just go in. You actually have to buy in. Yeah, I'm actually going to be probably investing in this one myself on Switch because it's also on Switch. So
nice.
Because, you know, I prefer to play stuff on Switch, especially stuff like bowling.
All right. Well, next game to talk about is Live by the Sword Tactics, developed by Labrador Studios, published by Gravity Gamerized Company, available on Steam Early Access for $24.99. It's going to be hitting full release and launching on Switch and Xbox on October 28th, but we are taking a look at it now. Live by the Sword Tactics is an unashamedly old-school tactical RPG with modern gameplay ideas. Set after the fall of the land, you control two brothers who must traverse the kingdom to stop it from falling back into the darkness of conflict. Pernell, what's going on in Live by the Sword Tactics?
The best way I can describe Live by the Sword Tactics based on what I played of it is to liken it to an old tabletop game I used to play called HeroScape, in which case two people could choose from a roster of miniatures and then place them on the board and then have them battle it out. These miniatures had a predetermined set of skills they could have, and you utilize them to the best of your ability. And you basically saw who could measure up and win the skirmish. This game is kind of like that in the sense that it's designed with the intent being to have a number of different classes, of which there are 7 in the story mode of the main game, though there are others that you can get in the adventure mode that are like typically fought as monsters in the story mode, that you can choose once you find them in the story mode, or if you're doing skirmish or adventure or tech, that's, you know, more like skirmish or adventure, you can choose them specifically. And from those characters, they end up having specific build-outs. They have an innate ability, basically like a buff or a perk that they get for their functionality. Like, for example, an archer, if they're on a higher level of, you know, of height, a height plane, they get like 1 more damage and their range can go out a little bit farther than if they were on flat land. They get an ability like that, which is, I guess you call it a passive. And then there's also 6 other abilities, of which 4 can be equipped for combat. So it gives you a little bit of variety to say, okay, they all have the same abilities, but what they're going to bring to battle may differ from what another person or unit might bring to the battle. You'd have something like that, and then you'd basically, like I said, choose a bunch of these different characters, and you go into skirmishes with them, depending on what the level has you do, but usually involves having a unit group of like either 3 or 5 units against another group of 3 or 5 units. You get movement, typical movement. A different thing compared to a lot of games like this, like when you change heights, you can only go up one. I should explain beforehand. This is one of those grid-based ones. So you move by squares. But if you were to say go upwards, like on another height plane, you can only go up 1 level per turn, which is very unlike a lot of other games like this, where they usually just give you a jump stat. This one basically says if you're going to go up, it takes time unless you're using the archer's high jump ability. So you can't just like run away and climb to a high plane on 1 turn. It's interesting in the fact that they went with this direction for gameplay, because I feel like there's an actual market for this kind of gameplay style. The fact that it's not about leveling up your guys or grinding in anything or anything like that. It's literally saying, these are the pawns I can use, and this is the best way I can think of to utilize them in this situation to the best of my ability. And that's pretty much what the story mode is playing out as, too. Like, you go through a series of battles where they kind of run you through like a linear plot line. There's no towns or anything like that because, well, yeah, you're not equipping or leveling up or anything. It's just meeting new people along the way. And it kind of works like a tutorial in that sense too, because as you meet new characters, they in turn bring a new class, which teaches you how that class can function. You can learn more about it, and then you can move on from there. The one thing that all these classes have in common, however, aside from just one passive, 4 attacks, is that all of their attacks, with the exception of their basic attack, has a cooldown of sorts. So use the attack, and you can't then use it again for another 2, 3, or 4 turns. So it makes you such you need to kind of balance which attacks you use and when you think it's appropriate to use them, especially for a healing type, because you don't want to burn through a 4 heal when you don't need it, and then when the time comes, you're 1 turn off from a cooldown, and you kind of can't heal your people. So it basically incentivizes wise skill usage. But yeah, every character has to deal with cooldowns and stuff. But some of the gimmicks behind the characters that makes them unique, however, are pretty cool. Like I liked the monk who gets left-hand attacks and right-hand attacks, and if you use a right-hand attack and a left-hand attack, you can actually attack twice in 1 turn. Whereas if you just use his basic attack or whatever, you only get 1 attack. So just an example of like the differentiation between the characters. Once you've done the story mode, you unlock additional modes at which you can play. There's the adventure mode, which kind of works like a world map sort of thing, where you go from place to place and engage in battles. But the characters that you have start out with are random, and you can earn items and money rather to purchase new recruits in the event that your other characters die. Because when a character dies, they stay dead; they don't recover. So it kind of has you like kind of going around the world, balancing out your character classes and resting up at ends and stuff like that. But still leveling up.
Pancakes!
Tactician is more of a puzzle mode where they set you up with a number of scenarios, and you have to go into the scenarios and do the best you can. There's a high score determining who did the best and who did the best on what levels. And lastly, Skirmish. Well, not lastly, because there's also a board creator, which I haven't done anything with. I don't even think it's available yet. Nope, it is not. But Skirmish is essentially like practice runs. You can pretty much just set up a battle, throw some characters onto the board, and duke it out with AI characters that are on the board as well. And, of course, the obvious last one, which I never had a chance to even do anything with, was multiplayer mode, because, I don't play games with humans. I play alone. So it's interesting with this game, because I feel like due to the nature of how they designed it, it needs 2 things more to me. And they may well be coming in future updates, especially because it's in early access. It needs more character classes, and it needs more abilities, maybe at least 1 or 2 more per character type. That way, you feel more inclined to be selective on what abilities you put on these characters, so you don't think that even though there's 6 abilities you can choose from, there's a definitive 4 options you're going to bring every time you use this character class to a decent battle. And I felt that way for a number of my battles. Like, I never want to use that attack. Why would I do that when I got this guy for that? Whatever. But if you get more variety in the characters beyond the base 7, you're more likely to see different permutations on the battlefield, or have the option for new permutations on the battlefield, which will change your gameplay styles and things of that nature. Oh, and also more music, please. The music is old fast. I would like to hear more music in this game for battles. Okay, one more thing. Jackie Chan's uncle. Speed up the battle. I like an option to toggle battle speeds too. I wouldn't be surprised if there's such a thing in the game, but I looked in the menu options, could not find it. So as far as I can understand, it's a 1 default speed, and that's it. Please add an option to speed battles up. It's not that I'm bored, it's just they're very slow, which means the game takes longer to play for no necessary reason.
Yeah.
All those things aside, though, the game surprised me a fair bit. I came into this not knowing what I was going to get out of it, thinking, okay, they're just trying to ape on Final Fantasy Tactics or whatever, maybe because the word tactics is in it and they reference old school RPG, whatever. But instead what I got is like a kind of a nostalgia trip for a game I haven't been able to play in like 12 years. So I can't complain about that. I think it's a quality product. I just think it needs a little bit more to push it over the finish line. Yeah. But for now, it's at least what would you ask?
No, it's $24.99, at least for now. I don't know if it's going to go up in price when it hits full release on the 28th. It is also going to be hitting Xbox and Switch. What are your thoughts? Is this something that you should jump into now? Should console players keep an eye on it? What do you think of it?
I think it's definitely a keep an eye on right now. Like, because I was going to say try it, but if they could, like I said, add more character classes to kind of diversify the actual party builds that you can create, it would jump to a buy it, I think, because this does tap into a style of tactics gameplay that I haven't actually seen on these systems in a bit. Someone might claim Final Fantasy Tactics, but no, it's not the same thing.
No,
it's really not. It's a different beast entirely.
All right, next up is Flashout 3, developed and published by Jujubee, released September 22nd on Steam for $19.99. Flashout is back, where high speed meets high stakes, where unforgiving combat, loud electronic music, and addictive boosts of adrenaline mix up to separate winners from losers, where gravitation is nothing more than an empty word. Take part in exciting head-to-head fight to the finish. Chris, tell us about your time with Flashout 3.
I'm just going to issue a little bit of a calm down to that description. Let's settle down here a little. Okay, yeah, Flashout 3. I actually don't remember. This game was so familiar once I started booting it up. I was like, have I reviewed a Flashout game before? Because I feel like I have played this. But I didn't check, so whatever. Flashout 3. So this is a game that is basically one of those that's kind of like trying to fill the gap that Nintendo has left in all of our hearts in not continuing the F-Zero series. Is a futuristic racer with like kind of spaceship-like cars. I don't know about straight up hovercraft. I don't think that. I think that might be a misnomer, but sorry, I'm dying. You race along a futuristic course without wheels, and you go, through like power-ups and speed-ups and whatnot, trying to get to first place or trying to destroy everybody, because this is a racing game with weapons. You basically, you start off with two characters to choose from, a boy and a girl. They both look very, much in like the 80s like version of like the distant future, but in fact it's kind of a look that I remember seeing like 10 years ago in like actuality. Anyways, so yeah, you pick one of them, you pick your cars, which you unlock more cars as you race more, as you go through more like campaigns, basically. You could do like a campaign, which is a series of races that are on specific courses, but with specific challenges, because on top of having the standard race, you also have the destruction race game mode, which is basically destroy as many vehicles as you can in a time limit. It doesn't matter if you're in first place or not. In fact, kind of serves you better to get kind of in the middle so that you can like destroy everybody. But of course, not getting destroyed yourself. But getting destroyed just means you just refresh. You spawn like a little bit behind where you were. And you got elimination, which is like, a last, every so often, I guess 20 seconds or so, whoever's in last place gets eliminated from the race. So you basically just keep going until you're the only one left, or, you're ranked as such based on when you got eliminated. Time trial, which is a time trial. I mean, we all know that one. And then speed lap, which is just, to go fast on a lap. And so like in the campaign mode, like they specifically will set you up with a series of levels, and each one will have a set one of those criteria, and they do like to mix it up. And your like points are added up Mario Kart style, where at the end, if you have the most points, then you get the top rank and you get extra experience points and stuff, which of course goes towards helping you get unlocked, unlock stuff and everything. So yeah, that's basically the gist of the game. I don't guess there's like actual multiplayer in this one. I looked for it, but I didn't see it. Does have like a lot of gameplay options and stuff too, like, auto braking and things like that. So it's very easy to get into this one. Yeah, like I said, it's just basically going through these courses and shooting up everybody. The way they have the guns mapped, I quite like, because as you unlock more weapons, you can assign weapons to like your different buttons. But basically, you use the shoulder button, or one of the triggers rather, to actually accelerate. But like each of the face buttons is going to be a weapon, and you can in fact fire them all at once. So you can just kind of hit all 4 buttons with your thumb at the same time and kind of go all out as soon as somebody's in your sights. I won a lot doing that. It was quite good. The thing that impressed me about this one, the frame rate. My computer's not the best or anything, but I do pay attention when like the games run really smoothly, and this one does run very, very smoothly. I always appreciate that in a racing game. The other thing is that the backgrounds and backdrops and stuff, they're very pretty. Like, they look really cool. I definitely I dig the graphic style of like, the vehicles and the actual courses. So it's really fun to look at. And yeah, I really think the best thing about this game is just blasting everybody out of the sky, getting those points, and man, it really does keep you coming back for that, because that is just so fun. Because it bridges the gap between this being essentially like a racing game and like an on-rail shooter almost.
Yeah.
It's kind of like racing with Star Fox instead of F-Zero,
And I know one of the big things is that it supports VR as well.
Yes, and I don't have VR, so I skipped right over that.
Yeah, but
I
people
cannot
who do
speak
have
to the
VR headsets can check that out. It has motion simulator support. So if you've got like the VR helmet and some kind of motion machine, it works with that, and it works on the Steam Deck as well. So excellent. Well, $20. What do you say?
Absolutely a buy it. I love to see like racing games like this that are really gunning for like the spot that F-Zero kind of dug out of my soul, like that. Any game that can occupy that spot for even a moment is a winner in my book. So I absolutely love this game, and it has my high recommendation.
Cool. All right, next up is Youropa, developed and published by Frecle, released October 6th on Switch for $14.99. When Youropa is torn apart, you must walk the walls in a strange and fragmented city. In order to restore it and learn who you really are, walk upside down on walls. In fact, walk anywhere you can get to. You will unlock new abilities, encounter physical puzzles, secrets, ferocious enemies, paint your character, and much more in an abstract but logical universe that challenges your perceptions of the third dimension. Pernell, what is Youropa?
Youropa is a game that I saw on Nintendo, one of those Nintendo indies. It caught me, it immediately stuck out to me, but then forgot about it, and then out of nowhere it decides it wants to release soon. And this game is freaking wonderful. It's a wonderful game. You essentially are this little, I'm not sure how many people are going to remember this, but there used to be these little toys called Monies. Like they're like these little like white dolls that people could buy and then like either paint on, or if you didn't have the one that you could paint on, like they were like designer ones that were already painted in advance. But basically you control something that looks like that, where you wake up hanging from a tree after some paint gets splashed on you, and the paint is what brings you to life. And then you are tasked with exploring Youropa, this weird back-asswards place that is pretty much Paris, but everything's like the ground is broken apart and everything's just kind of disjointed and floating in the sky. And you are walking around exploring it, because that's the best way to describe it, because deep down, I'm not even sure. Like they don't really outright give you like a goal in the sense of like, here's your adventures. Literally, that you watch Paris fall apart. You get up after falling from a tree and you move. You walk around. You get to your first paint portal by walking up to it, and it allows you to paint your little money character by giving him a like different paint job. You can put like decals on him and stuff. It's pretty nifty. Like just add a little bit of creativity to yourself. But then after you've taken care of that, the actual game proper kind of goes underway at this point, in which case you're going from like node to node, a node being a individual like playground environment, let's say, where you can explore and figure, basically solve a puzzle level. But you go from place to place trying to locate doorways to connect you to the next location to get to it. Sometimes those doors are closed, though. You got to figure out a way to power them, which means now you have to find a switch to power the door. Or, actually, that's generally the main thing. It's usually a lot of switches that are being activated. But the thing that makes this game particularly fun, despite the fact that it sounds pretty basic at the core, is the fact that you can walk on pretty much can walk on walls and ceilings and floors, and by way of suction cup feet. So when you're walking around, if you see like a curved archway that goes, like underground around the side of a ledge, you can follow it. You can keep walking and pretty much walk beneath the surface. You can walk on the side of walls if you have the opportunity to do so.
It has like MC Escher-like level design and how weird everything looks.
And it is freaking gorgeous. It messes with your head big time, too, because there will be times where you find yourself scratching your head going, how in the world am I supposed to get to this collectible item, despite the fact that it's over there? Clearly, there's got to be some kind of path, and you sit there and you will rack your brain trying to figure out the next way to get around to a location. And it's a lot of fun. Over time, you'll get new abilities that in normal games, they're pretty basic abilities. Like, oh, now I can pick things up. Now I can jump. Now I can look around the map. Like actually pan the camera out and look around. But in the scope of this game, it adds a great deal to the adventure because initially all you can do is walk. You can't even jump or grab or do anything. But each time you get a small ability, it tweaks the gameplay enough that you're like, okay, I get to go back and look around and see if I missed something. Like, for example, the first ability you get is the ability to pan the camera out. So you're like, that's pretty freaking basic. What the hell is the point of that? But what ends up happening is you'll start panning the camera out and scooming it around, and you'll see, like, printed on the walls and stuff, clues that will help you access other things. So it might be a switch that needs a combination, but you have no idea what that combination is. Well, that's because the color-coded combination is actually printed on the side of one of the walls, but you have to see it by inverting the camera to get around to it and spotting it. Sometimes you can use it to find secrets, too. Secrets usually being extra exits out of an area that you're in. There's cassette tapes you can locate where each time you find a cassette tape, it unlocks one new, creative item you can use in the level creator because for people who've got lots of time and creativity on their hands, this game has a level creator. Yeah, I don't think my brain can process creating levels in this game. Thankfully, they give you a lot of good levels inside the game too, so I'm good for that.
I like how the email describes this game. It says, think Super Mario Galaxy meets Portal meets Fez meets Jet Set Radio, only completely different.
I mean, they're not wrong. They're not wrong. And I kind of like that, though, because that's kind of what enticed me about. Like, it had that, again, like, it had that Mario Galaxy vibe going for it, where I was like, I miss that game. I like exploring in that game. And that drew me to this, too. And the thing about it also that I like is, like, actually, normally I wouldn't like it, but I kind of do it in this game. The music is not so much music as it's just, like, kind of like a gentle breeze that's playing over the background. And that's fine. I don't need it to be music sometimes because this game relaxes me. It feels calming just to play it, despite the fact that some of the puzzles are pretty rough. There is a life system in the game of sorts. Like, you can die in this game. If you fall from high heights or if you get attacked by an enemy and hit, they'll knock the paint off of you, literally. And if you lose too much paint, you will die. It's also if you fall off the side of a level, you'll lose some paint. Now, there's a normal mode and a hard mode, and personally, I haven't found any reason, even for my sake, to even bother with hard mode. Normal mode, if you run out of paint and die, it kind of starts you at the beginning of the level you were on. But if you run out of paint and die on hard mode, supposedly it kicks you all the way back to the last paint station you found yourself located at. And they can be pretty spread out. And I don't really see the benefit in going back to them. So my thought process was like, screw it. I'm enjoying exploring and looking around the world. If the only thing that makes the game harder is just more time lost when I die, I'm fine with normal mode in this case. And it's been a jam of a time. Like I originally was like, oh, I'm just messing around with this for a little bit. So I took it with me to the diner for my usual Sunday breakfast ritual. And lo and behold, I didn't want to put it down. I just kept going with it.
Did they have to kick you out?
Breakfast. Well, they didn't have to kick me out because I'm playing on the Switch. I took the game with me. But I did actually sit there longer than expected, just, playing the game, drinking coffee when I normally would have left by then. So it's a very engrossing game. Considering the fact that just a day prior to starting this, I got back into playing Baba Is You. The timing was pretty perfect because I do feel like, I'm going to say it, maybe one day I'll become a guy that's on the back box of a cover for one of these, the bullet points, whatever. But I feel like this is kind of a must-have puzzle game for the Switch. I mean, it's one thing if you get nausea or whatever, and you just can't handle walking on ceilings and the inversion and all that. But this game is really sweet, and there's even little touches too. Like if you walk underground on the wall or on the ceiling or whatever, and you don't move, your little character's arms will kind of dangle in the direction that gravity's pulling you. It's not even, it helps you figure out, get your orientation straight sometimes, but other times it's just kind of nice to be like, look at this little guy dangle his little money arms. It's adorable. And you start coming across a little hulking monster, and they have a little exclamation mark above their head where it's like, if they see you, they'll come after you. And if they don't see you, then, you're good. But I just like this freaking game. It's fucking wonderful. Yeah, I just cursed. Big whoop want to fight about it. But I think the game is great. And I hope people buy it because I did do some research after getting into it. Apparently, this game has been in development for 15 years.
Really?
Yeah, there were videos on YouTube of this game from 2009.
Wow.
So they put the time in, they put the effort in, and what we actually got was a genuinely good product, and they're asking for $15 for this thing. Normally, you'd see this be going for $25 on the eShop or $30. So I think this game is wonderful. I'm glad I got to try it because it's worth owning. If it had a physical, I'd probably buy that bad boy too because I love it. I think it's great.
Cool. Well, $15, your verdict?
Absolutely a buy it without question.
And if you pre-order it, you can save 10%, but it releases on the 6th, so hurry. You got until the end of the week. Last game to talk about tonight. Pretty Girls Tile Match, developed and published by Zoo Corporation, released September 29th on Steam for $4.99. A Match Pals game is now available in the Pretty Girls series, where you match 3 mahjong tiles with the same design and erase them. Clear the stage, get costumes for 6 pretty girls, and aim for completion. Chris, the girls in this game have big boobs.
This is very true.
They're back pain levels.
How big are they?
Well, I mean,
you could go to the Steam page and see,
it's
painful.
It's at that point where it's kind of this is a little ridiculous, honestly. But anyways, just because it's all of them, there's not really any variation there. The earlier Pretty Girls games at least had a little bit more different body types kind of thing. But still, whatever.
So how's Tile Match?
Well, as per usual, I think I've reviewed about 30 of these things now. They have taken the classic game and attached some pretty girls to it with costume changes. I'm not going to say tasteful, but there's definitely zero nudity in this game. So it's not the one that you want to play where your mom can see it. It's still, it's not going to get you fired from anything or whatever. I don't know what the criteria is there. And by the way, I found out that they actually do have actual adult versions of these games. They put them out in collections. I don't know what system, I forgot, but I saw that and I was like, oh, okay. So they just been. It's weird because they don't even do the usual thing of offering DLC for adult mode if you pay an extra whatever. But no, the Pretty Girls actually do have a naughty version out there somehow. Anyways,
that's not this. Though, so.
That's not this. That is not this. Don't even play this trying to get that. What it is that it is a variation on the mahjong type game where they actually have a Match 2 version of this I reviewed a long time ago. I can't remember the exact title. I actually used to play this game also on Windows 3.1. It was called Taipei at the time. And what it is that basically they stack up these tiles in different patterns, and you have to match up 3 of them. You cannot pull a tile if any tile is in any way on top of it. So there's the challenge, is finding which 3 of the matching tiles to like select. And the game actually does help you along with the fact that you can basically pile up about 8 of them in kind of a standby, including, like I said, holding, the pieces. And then once you get the 3rd piece into your like reserves, then it will automatically clear them for you. So like it's not just clicking on the correct 3 tiles every time. Some of it is like you have to strategically kind of pick up like a couple of tiles that are in your way and then make sure to like match those up with a 3rd one as soon as you can, so that you don't fill up your reserves and such. And the game goes on a very fast timer that basically dictates like your bonus score. However, the bonus score doesn't really matter, because as long as you can actually pass if you can pass the stage, then you get 500 points, and you can unlock a costume with either costumes and backgrounds for either 2,000 or 4,000. I didn't see anything less or more expensive than that. And what you do there is that once you have these things unlocked, you can then basically place your pretty girls into dioramas using those backgrounds and stuff, and then, I don't know, arrange them, take a picture, something like that, and I suppose that's fun in some way. The game itself, however, is very fun. It's, like I said, it's lightning fast, pattern recognition and things like that. It's basically my cup of tea. And of course, in this game, like all of the Pretty Girls games, it's done about as well as it can possibly be done. So, it's a quality tile matching game that has a side dish of just an extremely specific kind of fan servicey like gimmick. So there you go.
Cool. Well, it's $5. What do you say?
Yeah, $5. If this sounds like a game you would like, this is a good way to play it. Like I said, go into it for the tile game. The rest of the aesthetics of it are just there to be kind of a thing. I guess if you really, really want some nude artwork, then seek out the collections of these games that have the uncensored bits or whatever. I'm not going to bother looking for them again. You can find them.
Oh, well, that is it for tonight. Made it through another one.
Did we, though?
We kind of did. I mean, we're here. Piddles is like brushing up against my arm, like, give me attention right now, because she knows I'm doing things. So she has to be a pain in the ass. So, yeah.
Wow.
Meow. But yeah, Pickle's doing good. He's been lounging on the couch the whole show, just sitting there sleeping.
Doing
nice.
cat-like things.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Music. I guess I'll find some casino music from Dragon Quest.
Oh, yeah, that one.
I don't know. I have some from Dragon Quest 8, so whatever's in there. So
yeah, I think I'm going to look it up right quick.
I think that was the one I was humming.
It might have been, yeah. I think I was humming 7.
I have no clue. You guys know this more than me.
What we do know is that it's going to sound great.
No, yeah, 8's like the best one, I think. Da 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 da. Yeah.
Cool. So, any final words?
No, I'm asleep.